No one noticed the small human boy at first. That was how most great stories began. Every morning, while the sky over Iron Ring District burned grey with factory smoke, a 13-year-old boy named Cale Rowan stood beside the rusted magrail platform with his hands shoved into his jacket pockets. His shoes were worn thin. His backpack had been repaired with tape more times than he could count. Yet every day, without fail, he waited. And every day, the galaxy edged closer to a secret that would change everything. The transport arrived with a low hum, its doors sliding open to release a mix of human and alien students. Among them was Ceres Val, a young alien girl from the Aurelian species. Her skin shimmered faintly like starlight trapped beneath glass. Her legs, however, did not move. Ceres sat in a gravity cradle, a medical device required to keep her fragile body aligned. Without it, even standing was agony. The academy she attended was old, built long before aliens arrived on Earth. Elevators failed often. Antigrave platforms were considered budget luxuries. Cale stepped forward the moment he saw her. "Ready?" he asked gently. Ceres nodded, her silver eyes brightening. Cale disengaged the cradle, crouched, and lifted her onto his back as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Students stared. Some whispered. Others laughed. Cale didn't care. He carried her up 4 long flights of stairs every morning. And again at lunch. And again at the end of the day. He had been doing it for almost a year. No one asked him to. No one paid him. And no one warned him what it would cost. Cale lived with his father in a one-room apartment near the power plants. His mother had died years ago during a mining accident off-world. Since then, life had become a routine of survival. School, part-time work, sleep, repeat. The academy scholarship was his only chance at a future. Ceres arrived at the academy mid-year. She barely spoke at first. The Aurelian people were respected and feared across known space. Rumors said they controlled trade routes, stargates, and entire systems. But Ceres looked nothing like power. She looked small, weak, alone. The first day Cale saw her struggling at the stairs, something inside him snapped into place. He remembered his mother's voice. "If you can help, you do. That's what makes us human." So he helped. Over time, Ceres began to smile more. She laughed softly at Cale's terrible jokes. She listened when he talked about machines, engines, and how humans fix things with broken tools and stubborn hope. "You humans are strange," she once said as he adjusted his grip halfway up the stairs. "Yeah," Cale replied, breathing hard. "We get that a lot." Not everyone approved. A group of older students began calling him names. Alien pet. Charity mule. One day, someone shoved him while he carried Ceres. He nearly fell. Nearly hurt her. That night, Cale's father begged him to stop. "You don't owe the galaxy anything," his father said. "You owe yourself a future." Cale stared at the floor. "I can have both," he said quietly. What neither of them knew was that Ceres was being watched. Far beyond Earth, in a chamber carved from living crystal, a being of immense authority observed a live feed of the academy stairs. The image zoomed in on a human boy carrying an Aurelian child as if she were precious cargo. The being's expression did not change, but the room trembled. The matriarch of the Aurelian Dominion had not ruled half the galaxy by accident. And Ceres Val was her daughter. The following weeks grew harder. Ceres's condition worsened. Some days, her hands trembled uncontrollably. Other days, Cale felt how light she had become, like she was slowly fading. Still, she never asked him to stop. One afternoon, as Cale carried her down for lunch, the alarm sounded. Red lights flooded the academy. Students screamed. Teachers froze. Through the windows, massive alien warships descended into Earth's atmosphere, blotting out the sun. Panic spread instantly. The Aurelian Dominion had arrived. Soldiers sealed the academy within minutes. No weapons fired. No threats spoken. Just absolute control. A voice echoed through every corridor, calm and unstoppable. "Remain where you are. The child known as Ceres Val will be returned to us." Kale felt Ceres tense against him. "I didn't know," she whispered. "I never wanted." Kale tightened his grip. "It doesn't matter," he said. "I've got you." Aurelian guards flooded the stairwell. Their armor glowed with ancient power. One reached for Ceres. Kale stepped back. "No," he said. The guard paused. "This matter exceeds your species," the guard warned. Kale's legs shook. His heart pounded. He was just a boy. But he remembered every step he had climbed. Every stare he ignored. Every promise he never broke. "She doesn't want to go like this," Kale said. "Not scared. Not alone." The guard hesitated. And somewhere far above the planet, the matriarch leaned forward. For the first time in centuries, she felt something unfamiliar. Curiosity. The stairwell was silent. Dozens of students watched as Kale stood frozen between armored Aurelian guards, his arms locked around Ceres as if letting go would shatter her. His muscles burned, his legs trembled, but he did not lower her. The lead guard tilted his head, clearly confused. "No human has ever refused a dominion retrieval," the guard said. "Step aside." Kale swallowed. His mouth was dry, but his voice came out steady. "She's not an object," he said. "She's my friend." A murmur rippled through the watching crowd. Teachers exchanged nervous looks. Someone started recording. Ceres pressed her forehead lightly against Kale's shoulder. Her voice was barely more than a breath. "Kale, please don't get hurt because of me." Kale shook his head once. Too late for that. The guard raised his hand, signaling the others to pause. Somewhere above the academy, an orbital relay activated. The scene was now being transmitted far beyond Earth, into council chambers, command fleets, and trade stations across known space. The matriarch watched in absolute silence. For centuries, the Aurelian dominion had ruled through distance and inevitability. Entire civilizations surrendered at the sight of their ships. No one resisted. No one argued. Yet here stood a human child, small, unarmed, afraid, and refusing to move. "Explain," the matriarch commanded calmly. The guard received the private transmission and stiffened. "Matriarch, the human is obstructing retrieval. He claims personal bond." The matriarch's eyes narrowed slightly. "Personal bond?" "Yes. He has been physically carrying the air daily." That made her pause. "Daily?" she asked. The feed zoomed out, replaying archived footage. Day after day. Stairs. Hallways. Rain. Heat. Cold. Kale lifting Ceres without hesitation. Without reward. The matriarch felt something stir, something she had not felt since her own childhood. Back in the stairwell, Kale's arms finally gave a little. One knee touched the step. Ceres cried out softly. Instantly, Kale shifted his weight, protecting her from pain. He gasped but did not let go. "I can still do this," he muttered through clenched teeth. The guards exchanged looks. This was inefficient. Illogical. Humans were supposed to be fragile. Self-interested. Predictable. This one was none of those things. "Human," the lead guard said more gently now. "You cannot protect her from the Dominion." Kale looked up, sweat dripping down his face. "I'm not trying to protect her from you," he said. "I'm protecting her for herself." Those words echoed far beyond the academy. On distant worlds, alien viewers leaned closer to their screens. Among traders, soldiers, and diplomats, a single thought spread. What kind of species raises children like this? The matriarch stood. "Stand down," she ordered. The guards froze. "Allow the human to speak." Kale didn't know he was addressing the most powerful being in the galaxy. He only knew that someone was finally listening. "She didn't choose to be weak," he said. "She didn't choose this body. But she still comes here. She still studies. She still smiles. All she needed was someone not to look away." He took a shaking breath. "That's what humans do. We don't look away." The matriarch closed her eyes. Memories surged, ancient ones. Aurelian children abandoned for imperfections. Worth measured only by strength. Empires built by sacrificing the vulnerable. When she opened her eyes, her voice carried across the stars. Bring them to me. Gasps filled the stairwell. Ceres stiffened. Mother. Kale felt the word hit him like gravity. Mother. The guards carefully took Ceres, this time gently, and Kale was nearly pulled down by the sudden loss of weight. He caught himself on the railing, dizzy and exhausted. Before anyone could stop it, Kale spoke. She goes, but I go too. The guards hesitated. No human has ever stood before the matriarch, one warned. Kale wiped his hands on his pants. Then someone has to be first. Minutes later, Kale stood inside a transport more advanced than anything he had imagined. Ceres lay safely secured nearby, watching him with wide, conflicted eyes. I never wanted you to find out like this, she said. Kale shrugged weakly. Honestly, I figured your mom was important. You always talked like the galaxy was a meeting schedule. Despite everything, Ceres laughed. The journey beyond Earth was brief, but overwhelming. Stars bent. Space folded. When the transport doors opened, Kale found himself inside a chamber of living light. And there she was. The matriarch of the Aurelian Dominion was immense, not in size, but presence. Her form radiated authority so absolute it made Kale's chest feel tight. She studied him for a long moment. You are smaller than I expected, she said. Kale shrugged again. I get that a lot. A ripple of surprise passed through the chamber. You defied my fleet, the matriarch continued. You interfered with Dominion protocol. Why? Kale met her gaze. Because no one else would. The matriarch turned to Ceres. You allowed this. Ceres nodded. He never treated me like a burden. Only like a person. Silence stretched. Then, something unprecedented happened. The matriarch lowered herself, just slightly, until she was eye level with Kale. In my empire, she said quietly, kindness is considered weakness. Kale thought of his mother. Of broken stairs. Of promises. Then your empire has it backwards, he said. Across the galaxy, broadcasts erupted. Councils argued. Admirals whispered. Because the matriarch of the Dominion was smiling. And that had never happened before. The chamber was vast, but the silence inside it was heavier than stone. Kale stood alone at its center, suddenly aware of how small he was. His clothes were plain. His hands were rough from fixing machines and carrying weight that never should have been his to bear. Around him stood beings who commanded fleets, who decided the fate of worlds with a gesture. Yet none of them spoke. The matriarch turned slowly, her presence rippling through the chamber like a gravitational wave. You claim humans do not look away, she said. Yet your species fights itself endlessly. You abandon your poor. You poison your own world. Explain this contradiction. Kale swallowed. This was not a test he had prepared for. We're not perfect, he said honestly. Most of us are scared, tired, angry. But when things get bad, really bad, someone always steps forward. He thought of his father working double shifts. Of teachers who stayed late. Of neighbors who shared food during blackouts. We don't wait to be strong, Kale continued. We become strong when we have to. The matriarch studied him as if seeing humanity for the first time. Ceres lay nearby, her medical cradle humming softly. Mother, she said carefully, Kale represents what you taught me was impossible. The matriarch's eyes softened at her daughter's voice. Compassion without obligation, Ceres continued. Sacrifice without reward. Aurelian elders shifted uncomfortably. These were not values their empire prized. One elder spoke. Human emotion is inefficient. Dangerous. Their history proves this. Kale looked at the elder. So does yours. The chamber stiffened. Kale inhaled sharply. He hadn't meant to say it, but it was true. You conquered the galaxy, he said. But you forgot how to care for the people inside it. The matriarch raised a hand. Not in anger. In consideration. You carried my daughter, she said. Tell me, why did you never ask who she was? Kale shrugged again, exhausted but steady. It didn't matter. That answer struck harder than any rebellion ever had. 4 generations, the matriarch said slowly. We tested worth by strength, intellect, lineage. And yet, a human child passed a test we never conceived. She turned to the council. Prepare a declaration. Gasps echoed. The Dominion had not issued a declaration in centuries. Effective immediately, the matriarch continued, Aurelian law regarding physical imperfection will be rewritten. Shock spread like wildfire. No child will be deemed lesser for weakness. No citizen abandoned for inefficiency. She turned back to Kale. You have altered the trajectory of an empire. Kale blinked. I just carried her to school. The matriarch almost laughed. But the galaxy was not done testing humanity. Alarms flared suddenly. An aide rushed forward. Matriarch, hostile fleets have mobilized. The Korth Alliance rejects the declaration. They claim human influence is a threat. The chamber erupted. The Korth were ancient rivals, brutal, expansionist, and eager for any excuse to challenge Aurelian dominance. They demand custody of the human, the aide added. They call him a destabilizing variable. Kale felt cold. Ceres reached for him. Kale. The matriarch's gaze hardened, not with cruelty, but resolve. No, she said. He is under my protection. Outside the chamber, space itself seemed to tense. The Korth fleet arrived within hours. Massive, angular warships formed a wall of metal and menace beyond the Dominion capital. A transmission crackled through every channel. Hand over the human, the Korth commander snarled. Or we demonstrate what true strength looks like. The matriarch did not flinch. Instead, she turned to Kale. Would you still stand, she asked, if the cost were your life? Kale thought of Earth. Of stairs. Of Ceres. Yes, he said. The matriarch straightened. Then let the galaxy learn, she said, what humans truly are. She opened a channel, not to the Korth, but to every inhabited world. Kale's face filled the screens. This is a human, the matriarch announced. Unarmed. Unenhanced. Unafraid. Kale's heart pounded. He does not command fleets. He does not rule worlds. And yet, he changed mine. Across the stars, silence followed. Then something extraordinary happened. Human ships began to arrive. Old cargo freighters. Mining vessels. Patrol craft held together with hope and stubborn repairs. Not warships, workers' ships. They formed a loose, imperfect line in front of the Dominion fleet. A message came through. This is Earth Civilian Coalition, a human voice said. We stand with the kid. Another followed. And with anyone who needs help. Kale's breath caught. The Korth commander laughed. You bring scrap against war. The matriarch smiled coldly. No, she said. They bring something far more dangerous. She looked at Kale. They bring unity. The Korth fired the first shot. And humanity answered, not with fire, but with something the galaxy had never faced before. Refusal. Refusal to break. Refusal to abandon. Refusal to look away. The first Korth shot tore through space like a scream. It was meant to terrify. It was meant to remind the galaxy who decided survival. Instead, it revealed something the Korth had never learned to measure. The beam slammed into the empty space just ahead of the human civilian line. It missed. Intentionally. A warning shot. Human ships didn't scatter. They didn't fire back. They moved closer. Kale watched from the Dominion command chamber as the tactical display shifted. Hundreds of small human vessels adjusted position, overlapping sensor fields, linking communication nodes. Old ships. Weak hulls. No unified weapons system. Yet the pattern forming was deliberate. What are they doing? An Aurelian commander asked. The matriarch tilted her head, watching carefully. They are thinking, she said. On the Korth flagship, the commander sneered. They are bluffing. Fire again. But before the order could be carried out, something strange happened. Every Korth weapon system froze. Alarms erupted across their fleet. Targeting arrays flickered. Power cores began to fluctuate. What is this? The Korth commander roared. A human voice answered calmly over an open channel. This is Kale Rowan's people, the voice said. And we fix things. The truth was simple and terrifying. Humans had not brought weapons. They had brought engineers. For years, humans had worked inside alien infrastructure, maintaining trade stations, repairing gates, cleaning systems no one else wanted to touch. They learned quietly, observed patiently, and now, thousands of human ships were transmitting a coordinated signal, an adaptive interference pattern that exploited a flaw common to all Korth technology. A flaw humans had discovered long ago, and never bothered to weaponize. Until now. The Korth fleet was blind. The matriarch exhaled slowly. Remarkable, she whispered. Kale stared at the display in disbelief. They're doing this, for me. Ceres smiled faintly. For what you represent. On Earth, in factories and homes, people watched the broadcast with clenched fists and held breath. A human boy stood at the center of a galactic standoff, not because he was powerful, but because he was kind. The Korth commander's image reappeared, fury burning in his eyes. This changes nothing, he snarled. You cannot hold us forever. Kale stepped forward before anyone could stop him. Maybe not, he said into the open channel. But we don't need to beat you. The Korth paused. We just need to make you stop. Silence. You see, Kale continued, his voice shaking but clear, humans don't win by crushing others. We win by standing together until breaking us costs more than leaving us alone. The human ships moved again, closer still. Each carried families, workers, children watching from cockpits. The Korth commander hesitated. War he understood. This, he did not. The matriarch's voice filled the channel, calm and final. The Dominion stands with humanity, she declared. Withdraw. The Korth fleet remained motionless for a long moment. Then, one by one, their ships powered down weapons and retreated. Across the galaxy, something irreversible happened. Empires took notes. Back in the chamber, Kale's legs finally gave out. He sat heavily on the floor, shaking. Ceres was beside him instantly, her hand warm in his. You did it, she whispered. Kale laughed weakly. I think, we did. The matriarch approached them slowly. No guards. No armor. You have changed more than laws, she said to Kale. You have changed perception. She knelt, fully this time, before him. Every Aurelian present froze. To rule, the matriarch said, is to protect the weakest. We forgot that. She placed a hand over her heart. On behalf of the Dominion, thank you. News spread faster than any fleet. Humanity was no longer seen as fractured or primitive. They were seen as dangerous in a new way. Not because they destroyed, but because they endured. Days later, Kale stood once again at the academy stairs. This time, the lifts worked. Aurelian engineers had fixed them overnight. Ceres rolled beside him, her gravity cradle upgraded, smoother, stronger. You don't have to carry me anymore, she said softly. Kale smiled, but something in his chest felt strange. I know, he said. She looked at him. Will you? Kale didn't answer right away. Then he knelt, just like always. Yeah, he said. I will. Students watched. Teachers smiled. No one laughed. Somewhere far above, the matriarch observed the feed one last time. And for the first time in Aurelian history, an empire chose to learn from humans. The galaxy did not change overnight. Empires rarely did. But something had shifted, quietly, permanently, like a fault line deep beneath reality. and at the center of it stood a human boy who never meant to matter that much. Cale Rowan returned to his routine, because that was what humans did. After standing before fleets and rulers, after his face had been broadcast across 1,000 worlds, he still woke up early. Still packed his bag. Still walked through the smog-filled streets of Iron Ring District. Only now, the streets looked different. People nodded at him. Not with awe. With respect. The academy, once old and broken, was changing. Elevators worked. Staircases were reinforced. Accessibility became standard, not because of charity, but because of policy. Human policy. Aurelian policy. Shared. Ceres attended class beside Cale, stronger now. Her treatment had improved dramatically after Dominion scientists re-examined medical data humans had quietly been collecting for decades. Human medicine had been considered primitive. Until it wasn't. Their hybrid immune research, once just a student project, became the foundation for a new interspecies medical standard. Diseases once considered incurable across multiple species began to fade. When asked how humans had done it, the answer was always the same. We share what works. Cale's father watched the broadcasts in silence one night, his hands trembling slightly. "That's my son," he said softly, more to himself than anyone else. The Dominion kept its word. Trade restrictions lifted. Education exchanges expanded. Humans were invited, not conquered. For the first time, humans sat at galactic councils not as representatives of power, but of principle. And that unsettled many. Some alien factions still mocked humanity, called them soft, weak. They didn't notice the pattern. Humans didn't need permission to adapt. They built networks instead of empires. Repair crews instead of armadas. Communication chains that spread faster than fear. Where other species centralized control, humans decentralized hope. And hope scaled. Years passed. Cale grew taller. Broader. He learned engineering formally this time, studying systems not just to fix them, but to improve them. He refused offers of titles. Declined positions of command. "I don't lead," he said once. "I show up." Ceres, meanwhile, became something the galaxy had never seen. Aurelian. Disabled. Brilliant. Unhidden. She spoke openly about weakness, not as failure, but as information. About how survival wasn't domination, but cooperation refined over time. Her mother watched from afar, pride and humility coexisting uneasily. "You could have ruled," the matriarch told Cale once during a quiet meeting. Cale smiled faintly. "Someone already does." The matriarch accepted that answer. On the 10th anniversary of the standoff, a monument was unveiled, not on a capital world, but on Earth. It was simple. A staircase. No statues. No weapons. Just a boy carrying a girl. The inscription read, "They did not conquer the galaxy. They refused to abandon it." Children of every species visited it, asked questions, learned stories, and somewhere among them, new Cales appeared. New moments. New choices. Because that was the real danger of humanity. Not their strength. Not their technology. Their example. Far beyond the known stars, an ancient intelligence observed the changing patterns of the galaxy and recalculated its long-held conclusions. Humans were not a threat because they fought. They were a threat because they inspired. Back at the academy, now rebuilt and renamed the Unity Institute, Cale stood at the top of the stairs as Ceres rolled beside him. "You know," she said, "you never had to carry me all that way." Cale laughed softly. "Maybe not." "Would you do it again?" she asked. Cale didn't hesitate. "Yes," he said. "Every time." Above them, the sky was clearer than it had ever been. And across the galaxy, that answer echoed, again and again, wherever someone chose not to look away.